Please raise your hands, commanders of the departments.
Підніміть, будь ласка, руки, командири відділень.
The chief sergeants of the factories and the commanders of the factories. The chief sergeants of the company. And you are the chief sergeants of battalions and divisions, right? That's it, plus. Now we will start with one video, which we specially edited for you yesterday evening.
Почнемо з одного відео, яке ми спеціально для вас змонтували вчора ввечері.
Enjoy watching. We are the military servicemen of the 71st Jersk Brigade. We are the military servicemen of the Reconnaissance Company of the 58th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade. We are the military servicemen of the 43rd Separate Shooting Battalion of the military unit of 4080 of the city of Zhytomyr. The 57th Brigade. Mr. President, I appeal to you, Volodymyr Alexandrovich, to sort it out. We appeal to you, Volodymyr Zelensky, Volodymyr Alexandrovich, and to you, dear Valery Fezorovich. I appeal to the people of Ukraine, the command of the armed forces of Ukraine, to the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky. How can people who came voluntarily to defend their country carry out criminal orders in advance? Received a known criminal order for the criminal actions and orders related to the personnel. After carrying out the criminal order of the battalion leadership and the withdrawal of the encirclement, our guys were again sent to positions that were unprepared, were under constant artillery fire and enemy pressure and massive fire. After the unit was covered with artillery fire, we retreated. We as the TRO were in the zero position illegally, even before the order that the TRO can be on the front line. There was an order regarding the occupation and maintenance of the unprepared positions, without heavy equipment and artillery, only with machine guns and 4 magazines. At the same time, the combat tasks were not completely completed, namely to monitor and report, and at the same time to occupy. We had 2 machine guns and 2 RPG-7 grenade launchers. The group just climbed out, entered, and threw, roughly speaking, into the village. What kind of artillery support? We just go to the meat grinder, to the mincer, and with machine guns to stand against cannons, grad mortars, no one ever covers. Preparation of the unprepared and armed artillery. Alteration of positions without looking at the threat to the life of the personnel. Having been under constant artillery fire, all the available enemy forces retreated from positions to save their own lives. We do not give up combat equipment, never. We refuse to serve in a battalion that is not technically equipped. Where the officers' staff does not consider us as people, throwing us without weapons under fire and artillery. Grad has destroyed fortifications, trenches, dugouts. After that, we were forced to retreat. We went out and left the position after the fight was over. Now there will be an order to make us deserters. I do not know how to fight with machine guns against helicopters, planes, tanks, and everything else. They give orders without any seals. Make us give up weapons if we do not follow their orders. Looking at all the circumstances, we were forced to write report saying that we do not want to carry out a known criminal order. In order to save the lives of personnel, the commander decided to send people away. We were recognized as those who voluntarily left a part, which is an unfounded accusation. From the moment of our release, we were removed from all kinds of support. They made us deserters. We took the helmets, armor, weapons, and armed personal carriers and did not pay for the money. We refused to carry out this criminal order to save our lives. After that, they took our weapons without a mark in the military ticket. Tell us how we can fight for a country that does not care about us. Military personnel are demoralized at the moment. We do not refuse to defend the sovereignty of our country and did not refuse. We are patriots of our homeland and sons of our small Ukraine. We demand a dignified attitude towards us, a renewal of our positions that we have taken, and a renewal of all kinds of support that we have to be given from the side of the brigade. Glory to Ukraine. Chief Sergeant Rowe, let's start with you, my friend. Tell me, please, in your opinion, what is the reason for this? How do you guess? There is no coordination between the officers' battalion and the soldiers' battalion. All right, in your opinion. Speak louder so that everyone can hear. The problem is really big, and it starts from the very beginning, when people are in positions where there is no interaction between the units fighting you or with the officers' battalion. There is absolutely no interaction. People are just left behind. All right, thank you. My friend, what do you think? There is no connection, no coordination between the units. There is no connection, right? Sit down. There was a saying that the task was not fully completed. It was said to stand, watch, and fight, as if the task was completed. That is, the reason is not in this. The fact is that when it comes to information about the task, each of you at your level will receive more or less information, depending on your level. But the information will never be fully provided to the soldier. In 2014, when we went on the assault, we learned that it was an assault when the first mine fell near us. We were always told that we were moving, because there was a moment of saving information. Because there is a company of soldiers. 99% of them are absolutely decent people. But there will always be someone who will call his brother, his wife, his sister, and tell them where they are moving. At what time, how cool we are. Do you understand, right? That is the question of the inaccessibility of some information. So the main problem of why this is happening is the absence of commanders in place. It is the absence of sergeants. There were people in that assault who stood on the positions of sergeants. There were people with sergeants' banners in that assault. But in fact, there were no sergeants there. As for the moments with the commanders, that the commander is bad. In 2014, when we were in August in the surrounding area, we had a very good commander. Very good. One of the best I have met in my life. There were 18 people left from 2 companies. 2 companies put us together and became 18 people. We took 1 position out of 22 combat vehicles, not like today, but really combat vehicles. With guns, with armor. 2 vehicles. One of them is a BTR. And a good commander. And at the same time, there were cases when separate groups were going to run away. When I approached this group, without a snort, with an absolutely loyal voice to them, I asked, guys, how can you run away? I am staying, the Fritz is staying, the commander, will you leave us? Claims flew to my side. When I took 1 step towards him, this man picked up a machine gun and aimed at me. That is the commander, the stupid commander. We also turn off from this situation. I mean the officer, the company commander. So the main reason for this is the absence of sergeant work. This is the absence of your work, if it happens in your unit, and the absence of sergeant work in these cases is not a critical moment. The absence of sergeant work is that this critical moment has already happened.
вже дійшло.
And the reason for this is the lack of trust in the command. And the lack of trust in the command, which is the cornerstone of this problem, is a question that arises not in the short-term perspective, but they also work on it. Rather, it is due to the absence of work. For example, when a separate battalion was formed in 1947,
Наприклад, коли тільки формувався 40
in the month of May, we had to recruit people only by conversation.
Ми мали набирати людей виключно
Because already then there were similar situations, and we already saw the quality of the mobilization resource. And we did not want the military to force us people who do not want to fight, who do not even want to serve. And we began to make a selection. But we had a date of May 10,
Але
to which we had to form. We had to recruit 70% of the battalion. We came in checking and began to force us to recruit people prematurely.
і почали змушувати нас набрати людей передчасно.
We tried to do as much as we could, but as a result, we were ordered.
Але в результаті наказом
A lot of people came to us who do not want to serve.
багато людей, які не хочуть служити.
One of the officers who now serves in our brigade, he told me how it happened, because at that moment he served there. He was ordered to gather all unnecessary people, the most problematic, the most toxic,
Зібрати усіх
avatars on the list,
найпроблемніших,
and all 47 battalions.
на список і усіх 47-й батальйон.
He gathered this list, and then together with them he was sent to us,
А потім разом з ними його відправили до нас.
and we put him in the same unit. And it was a very problematic company.
Ми його поставили в цей же підрозділ.
So problematic that probably all June and July
Настільки проблемна, що
I had a headache with one unit. The absolute real situation is when in the morning we come to meet with the battalion commander
абсолютно реальна ситуація, це коли
to solve the issue of our location. In the afternoon, we go to solve the issue of weapons.
вирішувати питання нашого розміщення. В обід ми їдемо
I go out and I have all the thoughts,
питання,
and all the meetings went well. The land was given, the weapons were sent,
причому всі зустрічі все пройшло.
but my head hurt with one unit. And when we went to the front,
Направили.
problems also began with them. They also wanted to get rid of the positions.
З ними також
The commanders and sergeants pulled everything in place. They kept them in place in manual mode.
усе витягнули командири і сержанти на місцях.
There was no information in anyone. Even we did not have enough information. We were a battalion, not a regiment, not a brigade, but just a small separate battalion,
Були батальйоном.
about one of the mechanized brigades.
Маленьким окремим
We got
батальйоном
tasks very clearly,
організованих бригад.
without details.
Ми отримували задачі дуже однозначно.
But people in places turned on the imagination
На місцях.
and explained why we need to stand here.
Пояснювали, чому нам
Fortunately, such a situation did not happen with the battalion.
з батальйоном.
But now we are already a brigade,
Але
and such a leadership in manual mode will not work.
в ручному режимі
Moreover, I will not be able to get acquainted with each of you personally.
познайомитись
If then I had such an opportunity,
Якщо тоді в мене була така можливість,
now I don't have it. Now all this work will be on you.
триматися на вас.
I understand that most of you actually got on these positions by accident.
Трапили випадково.
You did not spend enough time
Ви не були достатню кількість часу на
on the ranks, on the positions of sergeants of platoons, commanders of departments, sergeants of the company. But we all understand the circumstances. There is a full-scale war in Ukraine, and these circumstances demand more from us than we are capable of. What is shown in the news, and what is shown about all these things that are happening on the front,
які відбуваються на фронті, показують,
I do not recommend paying attention to it, because the prospect of losing the country
перспектива втратити країну
for us is still at a very high level. You see, according to statistics, how many Russians die? 500 a day, 1,000 a day. But they have this resource.
Але в них цей ресурс є.
We do not think in principle in such categories. Where do we start? With sergeants of platoons. I would like to ask you to raise your hands and expand your mouth. Friend, you, please tell me what leadership is in your opinion.
Що таке лідерство?
It is the ability of a person to make, not to make, but not to give up. This is a possibility for a person to draw attention to himself and for his team to want to listen to him. I think so. All right.
Друже, поряд.
Friend, come here. No,
На
no.
вашу думку. Як би ви пояснили, що
What do
таке
you think?
лідерство?
How would you explain what leadership is? It is the ability to take responsibility for yourself.
Саме так. Дякую.
That's right. Thank you. Leadership is adaptation.
Це консолідація
It
ресурсів.
is the consolidation of resources and responsibility. Responsibility in the context of your work can be explained by a scientific example
Можна пояснити на наочному прикладі.
that you come across
Мабуть,
every day.
кожен
This is when a task is set
це коли ставиться
by a
якась задача
high-ranking commander
від вищестоячого командира.
and you realize that your soldiers do not like this
Ви
task.
розумієте, що вашим бійцям ця задача не сподобається.
It requires either some physical effort,
Або якісь фізичні,
or they will not eat, or they will sleep less,
бо вони менше,
or at least they just have to do something.
або як мінімум їм просто
And you are afraid to take responsibility.
І ви боїтеся взяти на себе відповідальність.
And you say,
І ви кажете,
guys, I don't know, I don't want to. But the leadership said,
начальство
we have such a leadership, we are forced to do it. This is a scientific example of the absence of responsibility.
відсутності відповідальності.
Given that you are trying to preserve
За рахунок того, що ви намагаєтесь зберегти
the loyalty of your people
дуже слабким,
in such a very weak,
негідним способом,
unsuitable way, you lay the foundation
ви закладаєте фундамент в
for separation between your people and the command of the unit,
командуванням підрозділу. Між вашим
between your unit and the command of the brigade. In this case, taking responsibility
взяти на себе
is to
відповідальність,
transfer the tasks of the higher command
передавати задачі вищого командування як свої
as your own. If you do not know the
ви не
details,
знаєте деталі.
you have to come up with a way to convey this task.
Цю задачу
But
донести.
your people have to understand that this is your task,
Ви розумієте, що це ваша задача.
and you are not a friend to your people. You are a commander to your people, a father, a mother, a psychologist, a chaplain,
Капелан,
but not a friend,
але не друг.
trying to preserve the loyalty of your people,
Намагаючись зберегти лояльність своїх людей,
trembling at what they think about you. You can lead to very tragic events on the front.
до дуже трагічних.
This also applies to the toxicity of the unit.
Також це стосується
To the toxic people, unfortunately, no matter how much we try to hold conversations,
на жаль, як би ми не
to hold a
намагалися
selection, our brigade was formed in a very short time.
проводити
There is a
селекцію,
reason for this.
але наша
I will
бригада
tell you
формувалася
about
в
it a little later.
термінах.
We recruited our brigade with all possible methods and tried to filter as many people as possible. But this selection process will take place for a very long time.
Максимально людей,
But for now, there are people in the unit who do not want to be here.
відбуватися ще дуже довго. Але наразі в підрозділі є люди, які не хочуть тут бути.
They could get here in different ways.
Вони могли потрапити в підрозділ
Moreover, they could even voluntarily come to the command post. Relatively voluntarily.
відносно.
They received a notice. For some reason, they did not have character to give a damn about this notice and not come to the command post. They would not care about it.
Їм би нічого за це не було.
But they thought they would go to the command post and pay 40,000, 43,000, 47,000, and even 110,000, 120,000 will be paid at the front. Maybe I will be lucky. I will not get anywhere.
Пощастить, ніде не потрапити.
And they went to the command post. They were not asked where they wanted to go. They were just as if to cross the field. They were pushed. They went.
Вони пішли.
And they came to us. They were interviewed, they were asked questions, and they just said from the fans, well, yes, do you want to fight? Well, yes, why not? And due to the fact that we had tight deadlines, such people got into the unit. But having got here,
Але, потрапивши сюди,
they are forced to work. They are forced to sacrifice some moments of life.
жертвувати якимись моментами побуту,
Comfort.
комфорту.
Someone is forbidden to drink alcohol and is a disaster for him.
Комусь забороняється пити, і для нього це катастрофа.
And such people are subconsciously already interested in
Свідомо вже зацікавлені у тому, що
those who give them tasks that they do not want to perform. To get these people out of the margins zone, their subconsciousness exposes their world,
їх підсвідомість викривляє їх
their objective world, in order to preserve their inner comfort zone. Because a decent person cannot force them to do what they do not want,
Не може достойна людина змушувати їх робити те,
what they do not like.
що їм не подобається.
But since a person is a social creature,
Але оскільки людина
a social creature, it is not easy for a person to live with a certain awareness within himself. A person eventually needs to legitimize his point of view in the eyes of other people.
конче необхідно легітимізувати свою точку зору в очах інших людей.
Because other people are a reflection of us. The way we perceive ourselves is a reflection of us in the eyes of other people. And so we need to legitimize our point of view.
Ми потребуємо легітимізації наших поглядів.
And they begin to spread these things to their closest circle, to their department.
На своє відділення.
Once some phrase, the second time some phrase, and the person, they say it to may not care.
Людині, якій вони це говорять, їй може бути навіть все одно.
But because there is one information vector, and there is no other information vector that you create,
І немає іншого інформаційного вектору, який створює теорію.
it takes over this very vector. A bright example is the pro-Russian propaganda in Ukraine. Even before February 24, there were a lot of people with pro-Russian views in Ukraine.
Навіть до 24 лютого в Україні було дуже багато людей.
They had these views not because they adore Russia, hate Ukraine, no. There was just one pro-Ukrainian information vector in their lives.
Просто був відсутній один вектор інформаційний в їхньому житті.
But there was another pro-Russian one.
Але був
And so the person who was in the superposition
людина, яка знаходилась
got under this information vector.
Він потрапив саме під цей вектор інформаційний.
Because Russia invested billions in it. Our politicians, unfortunately, invested money not in pro-Ukrainian propaganda,
Вкладали гроші не в проукраїнську,
not in informing people, but in raising their own rating. And because of this, such a situation arose in Ukraine.
через це виникла така ситуація.
This is a great example. The same thing will happen at the local level in your departments. And the same thing happened with the department I mentioned at the beginning.
І те саме відбулося з тим підрозділом, про який я казав на
A
початку.
toxic person appeared in the department. He did not like everything. And the moment when he did not like everything is a fairly relative term.
В чому момент усе не подобалось, це достатньо
A
відносно.
short example is when we were sleeping in a barracks. It was not a barracks yet. We were at the front. Sometimes we were driven away from the first line, and we had the opportunity to go to the quarry to shoot.
Від першої лінії, і у нас була можливість виїжджати в
And we were lying. It was about 9 in the evening. The sergeant comes and says, "Tomorrow, guys, in the morning, we are going to shoot."
і каже,
And the guy who was lying next to me,
ми їдемо на стрільби.
he started whining.
Який лежав поряд зі мною,
Damn shooting again. We are at the front. What kind of bullshit is this? It will be stupid again.
це херня.
For the whole day, we will not eat again.
На весь день ми знов не поїмо.
Yeah.
Блін.
The sergeant comes in 20 minutes later. He says, "Guys, back off, there will be no shooting."
Хлопці, відбій, стрільб не буде.
And this character says, "Damn, what kind of army is this?
Блін, що це за
We don't
Ми
even
навіть не
shoot."
стріляємо.
That is, the question is not in the interrogation.
Тобто
The
питання
question is not in specific replicas or events. There are people who are interested in killing all the time.
є люди, які, в принципі, зацікавлені в тому, щоб весь час схилити. Це їх
This is their paradigm of accepting the world. And there were such people in the unit who did not like something.
Комусь щось не подобалось.
They voiced certain replicas.
Вони озвучували певні репліки.
Others captured these replicas because there was no other vector. Moreover, most people are interested in being in the position of the offended because the offended cannot be wrong.
Бо ображений не може бути неправим.
The offended is always guilty, and it is very pleasant for a person to be in the position of someone guilty.
Приємно бути в положенні, який хтось винен.
Unfortunately, the commanders of the units were the same. The commanders of the units worked badly. In fact, there were no sergeants of the units. Where they were, they tried to perform the functions of not sergeants of the units, but commanders of the units. There it was possible to allocate literally a few worthy sergeants who kept the units and officers. Most of the cases were accidental people, and when we went to the front, we had problems with them. They wanted to run away from the front. When we went to Kosiantinivka, 2 people on this road pointed a machine gun at me. When I tried to put an end to this onslaught, this is what the absence of sergeants' work leads to. All the time your subordinates turn to me all the time. Soldiers, commanders of the units, all the time. On questions that you can hide, but you either do not know about it or you do not communicate with your people. First, if your people do not come to you for help, according to the advice, these are no longer your people. And for a sergeant, it is death. There is no communication in your units. A week ago, I gathered the first battalion of sergeants. I started by asking about the problem issues in their units, and we discussed their issues for about 40 minutes. Then I asked why I only now found out about all these problems. Despite the fact that all of them have my phone number, we solved the issue of weapons right in the same room, and I asked why I only now found out about all these problems. And I asked why I only now found out about all these problems. And we solved the issue of weapons right in the same room. And we solved the issue of weapons right in the same room. At the same time. With cars, it is the same. But none of them approached me with these questions. I know the sergeants of the company literally from several units. Moreover, I will not have the opportunity to get acquainted with all of you in the presence of many circumstances that are present now. This is a full-scale war. Since we have gathered now, we will not be able to gather in the near future. We will not be able to gather in the near future. One of the units will go to. Because we are taking over. There you will get to know your teams better. There you will get the practice of setting up accommodation, setting up hygiene of people. Food. There will be conflicts between people in your units. You will have to solve these conflicts. You will have to establish communication with other units. Especially the commander of the unit. There is no more difficult position than the commander of the unit. At least, because you, besides being a commander, you are also a combat unit. Secondly, you will always have a minimum of information and resources. Therefore, your position requires maximum adaptation to any conditions. This is in the broadest sense of the word. This is interaction with other units, interaction with officers, so that you have information, so that you have weapons, so that you have the situation, intelligence data, among other things, and it will all depend on your ability to cooperate with other people. Another example of constant dissatisfaction. Once upon a time, when we were 47 separate battalions, and we did not have any equipment at all, we managed to find 55 Toyota Hilux in Kuwait.
В Кувейті 55 Toyota Hilux.
At that time, it was the end of April, the beginning of May. It was just a blessing in disguise. 55 units of machines in good condition, all unified, and we started collecting money for them. Very quickly, we collected a little more than €1,000,000. The price for the car cost us about $17,500. Plus logistics. It is obvious that it is not 2 days or even a week to deliver 55 cars from Kuwait.
55 автомобілів доставити – це не 2 дні.
And the process of shipping these cars to Ukraine began. And our people, our fighters, for whom we did all this, for whom we, at the cost of our reputation, were looking for these cars, collecting money for their responsibility.
Шукали ці машини, збирали гроші під свою відповідальність.
They started shouting that we stole money, that there will never be a card. And it was a mass story. And this is also the absence of communication. This is the absence of sergeant work, because they were already in positions of distrust of the command. It was not a brigade, but a huge organism. It was one small battalion, where everyone knows each other and everyone crosses. But the time has come. The cars began to come to the battalion. 10:20. And already in August, everyone was in place. And what do you think? What did they start saying? Excuse me, is there really a car? No. No. And these people changed the plate on the fact that these are bad cars, that they have a rear-wheel drive. And what do we need these cars for? People were organized transport for the entire battalion. They are not satisfied with their absence. They are not satisfied with their presence. There is no logic here. This is a bright example of when a person is in position. From the very beginning of the controversy to the command, separation of personnel from the command of the platoon, the command of the company, the battalion of the brigade.
Сепарація особового складу від командування взводу, командування роти, батальйону, бригади.
This is a very dangerous story, because all the commands you will receive directly from the command of the brigade.
Ви будете отримувати напряму від командування бригади.
Then they will go down the hill. But first of all, these are the commands of the brigade command, which your fighters will often not even know in person. Today, I had to introduce you to the commander of the brigade, Sako Alexander Alexandrovich, also one of the most worthy officers I have met in my life. A real combat officer, a full cavalry of the Order of Bohdan Khmelnytsky, and not because of the acquaintance with the commanders, not because of their loyalty, but really because of the work. Work on the front. I know for what specific situations, for what operations. Sako Alexander Alexandrovich is a very talented officer in tactics, but he does not have the opportunity and will not communicate with everyone. Walk and calm down. Even today, he could not be present, although he himself expressed his desire. I did not even have time to offer him those things that people talk about in your units. Disappointment, which cause separation, and so on. Some kind of throwing phrases at the commanders.
в сторону командирів.
Now these are words, but these words create an atmosphere. And on the front, this atmosphere is transformed into concrete action.
Перетвориться в конкретні дії.
This may end in the fact that your people and others will die. At least I had experience both in 2014 and 2015, and already at this stage of the war, when I was directed by weapons, not because I fell for someone.
Не тому, що я до когось доколупався.
But because we tried to solve the problem. As for separation, next, I will introduce you to the traditions of our brigade. Since our brigade is new, we have the opportunity to create a culture, mythologies and symbols from the very beginning.
У нас є можливість створювати культуру.
We are now laying the foundation where our military unit will move. We are now laying the foundation of how people who serve in our military unit will think. A lot of things you do not know what is happening in terms of reform, in terms of the experimental nature of our military unit. But I assure you that already now, and even more so in half a year, our brigade will be unique in principle in the armed forces of Ukraine.
Наша бригада буде унікальною, в принципі, в збройних.
Already this Tuesday, I will present our unit.
Вже в цей вівторок я буду презентувати.
We will have services and directions that are not in Ukraine at all. We will have services and directions that are not in Ukraine at all, in no military unit. And this will affect each of you. This will affect the planning of the operation and the collection of intelligence data, and the work with intelligence data, and directly your actions on the front. But what we are focused on, what we are doing now, what we are doing now, it will not be possible to do it on my own. To the brigade, to the two of us, to the entire management of the brigade, because we ourselves will not be able to be locomotives of all that great that we are building. This can only be built in the event that each of you will realize your importance in this position.
Це вдасться збудувати лише в тому випадку, якщо кожен з вас буде усвідомлювати свою важливість.
Your responsibility. If your stay, your responsibility is limited to a plate in front of him and instead of his own backpack, you are not in your position.
Відповідальність обмежується тарілкою перед ним і вмістом його власного.
And I recommend that you go to the commander, that you are put on a regular position. And on your place, there is a person who will be able to work fully in this direction.
І на вашому місці стала людина, яка.
Because we ourselves will not pull it out. Only if each of you will understand your job, the responsibility of what we do for what we do. If each of you realizes the mission of what we are building. If each of you realizes the mission of what we are building. And you can correctly convey this mission to each of your soldiers.
І ви зможете правильно донести цю місію кожному зі своїх солдатів.
Only then can we build it. When we will be like one single family.
Коли ми будемо як одна єдина сім'я.
This is the story you saw. This is also the result of the fact that people do not have an identity along with the unit where they serve. If you quarrel with your mother, you will not go out and tell everyone what your mother is stupid.
Якщо ви посваритесь зі своєю матір'ю, ви ж не будете.
That she is a bad person. No, this is your conflict with your mother.
Ні.
This applies only to you. But no one dares to open the gate to your mother.
Але ніхто не сміє піднімати.
Because she is your person.
Відкривати рота на вашу
You
матір.
love her. All these people, their commanders, could not create in people a sense of touch to the place where they serve.
Людей, їх командири, не змогли створити у людей.
A sense of pride for their military unit. In another case, they would think that we have a stupid commander here.
В іншому випадку вони подумали, що це у нас тут дурний командир.
But this is our brigade. How can we take it all out on people, shame our military unit? If we do this, the volunteers will lose trust in our military unit.
Якщо ми це зробимо, Волонтери втратять
They will no longer help the units in our military unit. Drones, weapons, ammunition, medicine, cars are all volunteers.
медицина, автомобілі. Це все волонтери.
None of them thought about it. None of them thought that the brigade commander may not even know about it, because there are still a huge number of idiots between them and the brigade commander.
Бо між ними і командиром бригади ще величезна кількість ідіотів.
This situation could have been corrected, but none of them even thought about how it could be done. This is also your job, creating in people a sense of family, that this is their military unit, that no one outside has the right to open the gate to her and somehow shame her.
Що ніхто ззовні не має права відкривати на неї.
I will tell you more. Even besides volunteers, the command, when they see such videos, such feedback from soldiers, it can reduce, among other things, the receiving of weapons and ammunition by this military unit.
Це може зменшити в тому числі і отримання.
If such a thing happens to our unit, we will be eaten.
Якщо з нашою частиною таке,
We will cease to exist. What we managed to organize is only through our social capital, which we worked on sacrificing our own reputation, putting everything we have.
Наш соціальний капітал, який ми напрацювали, жертвуючи власною репутацією.
We built our brigade's social capital thanks to this. And thanks to this social capital, our command believes in our brigade. 99% of the problems you come across, they can be eliminated.
Вірить в нашу бригаду.
It is possible, but you need to turn off your imagination and remember about responsibility. Once again, please raise your hands, Sergeant of the platoons.
І пам'ятати про відповідальність. Ще раз, підніміть, будь ласка, руки, сержанти взводів.
You are a little distracted. Okay, let the commanders of the units. Oh, great. And you, once again.
Давайте командири відділень. О, чудово. А ви?
Okay, let's start with you. Friend, please tell me, how much does the PQM weigh?
Друже, скажіть, будь ласка, скільки важить
Okay, sit down. 7.5. How much does the M240 weigh? We now have M240 more than PQ is.
У нас зараз М240 більше, ніж...
How much? 12.5. How much?
Скільки? 12,5.
12.5. Sit down. Friend, please tell me which tanks are in our arms.
Скажіть, будь ласка, які танки знаходяться у нас на озброєнні?
In our military unit. The whole battalion is assembled. I can't hear you. You can't remember. Oh, you can. Did someone forbid you? Once again, I don't know.
От, це правильно.
That's the right answer. Sit down. Friend, please tell me what is the caliber of the cannon on our tanks.
На наших танках.
A piece of shit. Friend, lower your hands. We are not at school.
Кажіть.
Tell me. Friend, if you don't know, then tell me. Don't hold back.
Не затримайте. Не знаю.
You don't know. You, friend. BP-1, BP-2, you know, there are such machines. The main weapon of the Russian Federation. All of you are obliged to know the main weapon of the Russian Federation. Automatic BEP, T-64, T-72, strike helicopters. All of you should know the main aspects of this weapon.
Основні аспекти цього.
That's it, friend.
Так от, друже, БМП-1.
BEP-1. What is the caliber of their cannon? They don't know. How many types of grenades can it spit out?
Зарядів, гранат, якими вона може плюватись.
There are only two. Well, try to guess.
Спробуйте вгадати.
Cumulative, right? And flammable. 15, OG-15.
ОГ-15, ОГ-15. Сідайте.
Sit down.
Друже.
Friend, you. What is the caliber of the cannon on the BEP-1? You don't know.
Не знаєте. Вона гладко
It is smooth. Well, that's it.
Так от.
This is the side of our army for today.
Біч нашої армії на сьогоднішній день.
You and I are taking positions that are not worthy.
Яких недостойні.
We can't take these positions. Almost none of us. And you don't just have to know all this. You have to be teachers for your soldiers. And the same question is not about the fact that there is no training. The Wikipedia entry, I think, is not over yet.
Підписку на Вікіпедію, я думаю, ні в кого не закінчилась.
There is the TTH, there is everything. 90% of what I know, I learned from YouTube and books.
90% того, що я знаю, я вивчив по Ютубу і по книжкам.
And from the people who were next to me. Our part, and in principle, Ukraine is unable to train all of us today.
І, в принципі, Україна на сьогоднішній день не здатна опрацювати навчання усіх нас.
Unable. But we are forced to perform tasks on these positions now.
Але ми змушені зараз виконувати задачі на цих посадах.
Otherwise, we can just lose the country. And your responsibility is to learn on your own.
І ваша відповідальність навчати.
The claim that you were not taught does not work. If in a month, if at the end of January, I come to one of your soldiers and he will not know how to wear an armored vest, at what height he should have a plate.
Якщо в кінці січня я підійду до когось із ваших бійців, і він не буде знати, як носити бронежилет, на якій висоті має бути у нього плита.
Or I ask him some banal questions about the weapon he will have in his hands, and he will not know. If you do not know, you will be removed from your position on the same day, and I will transfer you to the reserve battalion on the same day.
Я вас переводжу в резервний алкабатальйон в той же день.
This is not an empty threat. I promise you that it will happen. You will get into a battalion where everyone is taught everything, everyone goes to Abrams, shoots M401 and goes in multicams. And you will sit there until the end of the mobilization. No one will transfer you from there. And as for mobilization, exclusive information for you is that there will be no demobilization.
А щодо мобілізації, ексклюзивна для вас інформація. Демобілізації не буде.
And look, now I will ask you these questions, and objectively 90% of you also do not know the answer to this question. I apologize, I do not know the answer to these questions. I already talked like Yanukovych. I apologize, you do not know everything, but these are all things that are just in Wikipedia. You are obliged to know the basics of communication, the basics of topography. Each of you is obliged to know this. The basics of tactics. Remember all the gestures in the context of communication with gestures, which are stated in our brigade.
По тактиці. Знати на пам'ять усі жести в контексті спілкування жестами, які затверджені в нашій бригаді.
You will get them all in the form of videos, not pictures, where everything will be clearly explained. If you do not know the basics of all military directions, and your people do not know this, you will leave us.
Виготовлення саморобних вибухівок. Якщо ви не будете знати ази по усім військовим напрямкам, і ваші люди не будуть цього знати, ви нас залишите.
Listen, you have a month for this. If I had not learned on my own, I would not have told you this.
Я вам цього не казав.
But I know that this time is more than enough. I understand the situation and the conditions we are in. Therefore, we are talking about the base from which your soldiers will be able to work. When they will be given a radio station, put a map in front of them, they will not be lost and will be able to work with it.
Не розгубляться і зможуть з тим працювати. Якось з горем, перепрошую, якось з горем навпіл.
In a week or two, instructors will come to us. We managed to arrange for very cool instructors to come to us in each of these directions. Some of you will go through these exercises right on the positions. On our side, we will attract as many resources as possible to give you the necessary knowledge.
Зі своєї сторони ми залучимо максимум ресурсів, щоб дати вам необхідні знання.
But we will not be able to work, you all. Unfortunately, this is not possible. Unfortunately, we are forced to put you in conditions where you are not prepared to do the work.
Ставити вас в умови, де ви будете непідготовленими виконувати.
Because we have no choice. Either we are already studying somewhere in Poland and dream of liberating Lviv, or we are now working and studying.
В Польщі і мріємо звільняти Львів, або ми зараз і працюємо, і навчаємось.
This is a combination that will not last long. The reports, most likely before the temperature rises, will send us to carry out the direct actions according to the scenarios they prepare for us.
В розрізі цієї війни. Звідти, скоріше за все, ще до того, як підніметься температура, нас відправлять вже виконувати безпосередньо ті дії, за сценаріями яких нас готують.
They are preparing our brigade. On this Tuesday, I met with them again on the issue of our brigade, and they once again stressed to me that our brigade is assault, and its concept is assault, and ours is a breakthrough.
Ще раз акцентували увагу, що наша бригада штурмова. Її концепція штурмова. А наш прориву.
And everything that you can imagine in your head from the word breakthrough, all associations that arise in you think that it is so, you will not miss.
Усі асоціації, які у вас виникають, вважайте, що так воно і є. Ви не промахнетесь.
No one will tell you more information, but live with the awareness that the only chance for us to live to the next summer is the strength and endurance of your muscles and what you manage to fill your head with during this time, and you will fill.
Це сила і витривалість ваших м'язів і те, чим ви встигли за цей час наповнити свою голову. І будете наповнювати.
Death of your subordinates will be your responsibility if you did not teach them everything they could and did not learn themselves.
Буде на вашій відповідальності. Якщо ви не навчили їх усьому, чого могли, і не навчилися самі.
So, about the name of our brigade. We got the name of our brigade from the section of the upper unit.
Назву нашої бригади ми успадкували від відтинку підрозділу УПА.
The name of our brigade is Magura, and in the future we will work on what no one will know us as a separate mechanized brigade.
Роботу над тим. Нас ніхто не буде знати як окрема механізована бригада.
It will be just Brigade Magura. This is the word that means the top, the height. And around this concept of height, the top, we build the concept of our brigade, our mythology and our symbols and our traditions. We will go to the recognition in the Carpathians when there will be time, and we will choose the top there. We will choose the mountain not pops of perhaps which does not even have a name, and we will call Magura.
В Карпати, коли буде час. І виберемо там вершину. Виберемо гору. Не попсову. Можливо, якої навіть немає назви. І ми назвемо її Магура.
This will be our mountain. We will develop a route to this mountain, and it will be our prostrate, our pilgrimage to Magura, which will symbolize development, growth, personality, and you as warriors.
Яке буде символізувати розвиток, ріст, особистості і вас як воїнів.
You will carry out this prostrate together with your units, separate groups of 2, 3 people, 9, 10, maybe even a platoon. There, at the top of this mountain, we will set up a camp, or rather a place for a camp where you can always come from the combat, take your people, go there. We will develop a route not too complicated, an hour and 15 through the forest, up the mountain. And when you come there, you will become a camp, and it will be your place of power, the place of power of our military unit, where you will talk to people, where you will communicate and get acquainted at a different level.
Через ліс, через брід, вгору. І коли ви туди прийдете, ви станете табором, і це буде ваше місце сили. Місце сили нашої військової частини. Де ви будете з людьми говорити, де ви будете спілкуватись і знайомитись на іншому.
On this mountain, we will set up a stone depicting our shoulder sleeve insignia with our logo, and next to it there will be a wall on which there will be portraits with the names of all the dead in our brigade.
І поряд буде стіна, на якій будуть зображені портрети з іменами усіх загиблих в нашій бригаді.
The motto of our brigade is Semper Audentes. This is Latin. Our motto can be translated in different ways. If Valery Fedorovich asks, you say that our motto is translated, as always, bravely. If the enemy asks, or civilians, you say that your motto sounds as always with pride. Our shoulder sleeve insignia, when we were asked if it was a dragon or horse, we said it was a dragon.
Наш нарукавний знак, коли нас запитували, це дракон чи це кінь, ми казали, що це дракінь.
You can call it that. How did it come about? Already at the stage of this war, this phase of a full-scale war, with Ivan Mikhailovich Shalomigo, who was the commander of the 47th Battalion, who was the commander of the 47th Regiment, and is now the deputy commander of the 47th Brigade.
Який був командиром 47-го полку і зараз заступник командира 47-ї бригади.
We met in March this year. He worked with drones then.
Цього року. Він тоді працював з дронами.
I came to him. He taught me a lot about working with drones.
Я до нього приїхав. Він мене багато чому навчив по роботі з дронами.
Some people came to us, who I hope will come to us too. They both taught us about working with a detonator, how to disassemble this detonator, what is inside, what life hacks are there, and what can be done with this detonator.
Як цю вибухівку розбирати, що там всередині, які лайфхаки є, і що з цієї вибухівки можна зробити.
And we went to work together. This work meant going to some place. In a way, we changed our positions, and the Russians were dying right in their positions.
Певним чином ми переходили наші позиції, і росіяни вмирали прямо у себе на позиціях.
Even when we had already left our positions and went home, they continued to die there because of the consequences of our work there.
Через наслідки нашої там роботи.
Maybe they are dying now. And this concept was liked by the commander of the 30th Brigade. It was proposed to lead a separate battalion of 47th to scale this concept of work.
І було запропоновано очолити 47-й окремий
Drones, sniping, work with a detonator, mining, in fact, in this direction, scaling this to the level of the battalion.
робота з вибухівкою, мінування. Власне, по цим напрямкам. Масштабування цього до рівня батальйону.
And the concept was to be based on the same actions. Separate battalion units go to positions of other military units, do so that the Russians die there and return back.
Роблять так.
They blow up offensive plans, blow up some other intentions, and we go to sleep in a safe place. And so the concept of a chess horse emerged, which can overtake other figures, moves non-standard compared to other figures, and can also make a move back, return back, destroy the enemy and return back.
Інші фігури рухаються нестандартно відносно інших фігур. І так само може зробити рух назад, повернутися назад. Знищити ворога і повернутися назад.
This is how the concept of a chess horse emerged. But since we are not chess players, and yet our work is connected with the destruction of the enemy's vital force, then the face in it should be aggressive.
Живої сили противника, то морда в нього має бути агресивною.
Therefore, such a view, a wheel with spikes is a shield with spikes. Shield, because we still defend what is important to us.
Ми все-таки захищаємось. Ми захищаємо те, що нам важливо.
But the shield is cut with spikes. And the Russians die here so effectively that there are already 100,000 dead Cossacks.
Що вже 100 тисяч мертвих кацапів.
Less than in a year. This is how the concept of our shoulder sleeve insignia emerged. About the surrender to the shoulder sleeve insignia, I hope you are all aware and acquainted that all combat units, all divisions, all mechanized brigades, battalions, all separate combat fleets, reconnaissance units, all hand over to the combat chevron of the brigade.
Усі окремі роти бойові, розвідпідрозділи, всі здають на бойовий шеврон бригади.
There are two combat chevrons, green and blue. In the chat of sergeants, you should have seen it.
В чаті сержантів
I will send the information. In the general Telegram channel, it is also there.
я скидав інформацію. В загальному телеграм-каналі
I hope that you are familiar with all this. If you still did not know this, then I recommend thinking about the value of your presence in this position. because it means that you are very little interested in what is happening. On Monday, the 1st Battalion will hand over to the chevron, so that we can close the question with their battalion before leaving. So divisions will go to the positions. When other divisions are deployed, the 2nd Battalion will be the next. Then we will bring groups of people here. They will hand over to the chevron. If we succeed, we will organize a day off and people will return to their positions. But already with combat chevrons, battalions, but not battalion headquarters, only the headquarters of the brigade, the rear support units of the MSC, BTZ, Rambet, and so on.
Підрозділи тилового забезпечення, ВМЗ, БТЗ, Рембат і тому подібні.
Have gray chevrons. The management of the brigade has gray chevrons. The black chevron belongs to the commander of the brigade, the military sergeant of the brigade, and literally to several people who created this brigade,
Сержанта бригади і буквально у кількох людей,
who directly relate to the fact that this brigade from the battalion grew up to the brigade, people who worked then and believed in all this when no one believed that something would happen. For the next 2 to 3 weeks, I hope we will be able to work out all combat units.
За наступні 2-3 тижні, я сподіваюся, ми зможемо опрацювати всі бойові підрозділи.
How was the surrender of the chevrons in the 47th Battalion when there were not so many people? We had 500 people. The unit is being prepared. I asked in advance who does not need it, who wants to go home, who wants to sleep, because we started at 5 in the morning.
Хто хоче додому, хто хоче спати, бо починали ми о 5 ранку.
Who does not want to fight? There were no people who wanted to. I was already going out in a bulletproof vest. They ran out on the route. In a few minutes, I ran out in a bulletproof vest behind them. The unit ran in military pants and boots, but without equipment. I ran out behind them in a few minutes. Who ran 10 kilometers later than me did not pass to the next stage.
Пробіг 10 кілометрів пізніше за мене, далі не проходив. До наступного етапу.
But I do not need a unit of the Olympic team. I need a military unit in which I will serve as a Rex with character.
Олімпійської збірної. Мені потрібна військова частина, в якій будуть служити рекси.
Character is essential for a soldier and a warrior, because where there is not enough strength and knowledge, he must be able to pull out according to character. If I am not mistaken, in the 2nd Company, when they surrendered to chevrons, there was a fighter with excess weight.
Коли вони здавали на шеврон, був боєць із зайвою вагою. Він дуже важкий.
He ran very hard. He was limping, his leg hurt, but I ran after him all the time.
Але я весь час біг за ним.
Because it was worry. The man was in pain. It was hard for him. But it was clear that he had character. He ran, he suffocated, but I let him run. And he surrendered to the shoulder sleeve insignia. He received a chevron, a military chevron of the brigade, because if a person is young, does not drink, has a good physical shape, but he does not have character, he does not belong to the army.
На війні йому не місце.
He will not be able to reform himself when it is necessary. And on the front, during the assault, you will always have to go to the limits of your capabilities, and if you stop at this limit, you will die. Now you are engaged in tactics. Run, 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 fall on your knees. On the front, it will not be so. As it happens in real conditions, you run 60 meters, and you are so suffocated that you have nothing in your head except to take off your bulletproof vest and just breathe. You will start to panic, and the panic needs to be overcome. That is why this fighter ran. I let him surrender to the shoulder sleeve insignia because he has character. He has extra weight, but it can be thrown off. He either has character or he does not have it. And there is fat day, tomorrow there is no. Then pull-ups. You need to pull up 10 times as much as possible. I just need to see that you are not just you, that your fighters are not dystrophic, that they have some potential of strength in their bodies.
Мені просто потрібно побачити, що ви не тільки ви, що ваші бійці не дістрофани, що у них є якийсь потенціал сили в їхньому тілі.
Next is the rope. The rope does not hang very high, it hangs on the territory of. It is needed to see who will not be afraid to climb at this height. Put your hand under the...
Щоб побачити, кому просто елементарно не буде страшно залізти на цю висоту, засунути руку під бахраму, там, де не видно канату, відірвати
other hand from the rope and touch the branch on which this rope is attached. To climb the rope, you do not need special physical strength.
Щоб залізти на канат, не потрібно особливої фізичної сили.
There is enough technique. It is enough to watch one video on YouTube and do 3 attempts before that, but not on the same day, at least. Then a person will definitely climb out. If a person does not climb the rope, then he simply did not try to do it before that. After that, when you and your fighters, when there was a battalion, I took everyone on the shoulder sleeve insignia.
Після того, коли ви і ваші бійці, коли був батальйон, у всіх на нарукавний знак приймав я.
There were cases when I ran 20 kilometers in a bulletproof vest a day. But now my health is not enough to work the whole brigade. Therefore, now this task is put on me and on the main sergeants of the units. Get ready. You will have to put on a bulletproof vest and run with your people. All battalion commanders, sergeants of battalions, officers, sergeants give it to everyone.
Офіцери, сержанти, здають усі. Без виключення. Всі.
Without exception, everyone is equal. And you have to fight your people directly.
А вам безпосередньо вести своїх людей в бій.
It is you, the sergeants. And they should see your authority, your strength, and your experience.
Ваш авторитет, вашу силу і ваш досвід. Що ви робите те саме, що роблять вони.
That you do the same as they do, but more. They should know and understand your experience. On the day when the fighters receive the shoulder sleeve insignia, their life changes.
В той день, коли бійці отримують нарукавний знак, їх життя змінюється.
Until they receive the shoulder sleeve insignia, they have only duties. And even more, they have no right to complain about something.
І тим більше в них немає права
And even more, to demand. After handing over the shoulder sleeve insignia, you are a valuable member of the family. And all the traditions, all the requirements of the brigade fall under you. And how you look, and how you behave beyond the boundaries of the military unit.
Як ви виглядаєте, і як ви ведете себе за межами військової частини.
Because your outer appearance is the outer appearance of the brigade. When you go and crawl under your feet, you show attention not to yourself, but to the military unit. When people on the street, when you walk somewhere, see how you are doing an inhumane act, they associate you not with your personality.
Як ви вчиняєте негідний вчинок, вони асоціюють вас не з вашою особистістю.
They look at you and think, oh, this is from the 47th Brigade, everything is crap. And maybe this is the only contact of this person with our brigade. This is the only associative line that will arise in it.
Цієї людини з нашою бригадою. Це єдиний асоціативний ряд, який у неї виникне.
And it will continue to spread throughout life. And this will reduce the trust in our brigade and the social capital of our brigade. And the higher it is, the more questions we will be able to cover with our own forces, and equipment, and weapons, and volunteers, and, among other things, the orders that will be issued to us. On the day when you and your fighters handed over the shoulder sleeve insignia and received it, the word problem disappears. For you, it ceases to exist.
На нарукавний знак і отримали його. Слово «проблема» для вас зникає. Воно перестає існувати.
If you hear the word problem from someone, the punishment is 20 push-ups.
Покарання 20 відтискань. і корисно.
both beneficial and pleasant. This is called to change the paradigm of people's thinking. The problem is a big obstacle, a wall that person may not know how to cross.
Це перепона якась велика, це стіна, яку людина, можливо, і не знає, як перейти. Ось
This is the problem. This is the image, as in our thinking, we perceive the word problem. The challenge, the paradigm, the concept of the word challenge, it presupposes that this is what you need to overcome.
виклик. Вона передбачає, що це те, що вам потрібно.
So you do not ask what are your problem issues, what are your problems. You ask your fighters what challenges you had today.
У своїх бійців, які у вас виклики були сьогодні.
Sergeant, I have a challenge, and I have a proposal how to solve this challenge. When you give these things to your fighters, they can accept them with a smile. Moreover, some traditions will be accepted with a smile for a while. But after a while, all these rituals will begin to be accepted as part of our thinking and part of our life.
Пройде час, і всі ці ритуали почнуть сприйматися як частина нашого мислення і частина нашого побуту.
For many years, I served in the VIV, and we had a lot of traditions that we took very seriously, but the person on the side would take it as some kind of idiocy.
Дуже серйозно, але людина зі сторони сприймала б це як
And we gave everything to the beret, to the shoulder sleeve, insignia to the body. And the biggest quarrel was when the insignia was removed from you for something.
найбільший сором був, це коли
In my memory, the insignia was removed only once from my battalion commander, and it was such a shame that he did not appear in the battalion for half a year, and then he was transferred. Instead of the word problem, you use the word challenge. And do not ignore if you hear that someone says a problem. Maybe you heard about this story when you can't say the last one, but you have to say the last one right. So in our military unit, if you say the word the last one, you could get such a slap in the face that your eyes could fall out of orbit, especially if it could sound on the capital. This is before parachutes, with parachutes. When the phrase sounded, oh, my last jump was beat.
коли звучала фраза «Ой, у мене останній прыжок був ба».
And so, in similar situations, civilians, when they hear that they can't say the last one, it's nonsense for them.
Можна казати останній. Для них це бред.
And we took it as ours. And when I retired, I really, for many years, forced myself to learn again to say the last word. Because as a fool, I said the last one. And people paid attention to it. The same is true for chieftains. There are people in combat units with great experience in combat actions, with experience of specific work in civilian life, which can be useful to us.
З досвідом специфічної роботи в цивільному житті, який нам може бути корисним.
They have a lot of knowledge in their heads, which will also be useful to us, but for some reason they can't give it to us. If this is a serious reason, for example, an injury or chronic disease, a serious reason, we can close our eyes and find a position for it, maybe even in a combat unit, on which its physical endurance will not be so critical.
Ми на це можемо закрити очі і знайти для нього посаду, можливо, навіть також в бойовому підрозділі, на якій його фізичне відставання не буде настільки
But only in this case if its physical endurance will be compensated by its high professional level.
буде компенсуватися його високим фаховим рівнем.
Only in this case, if its knowledge, the direction of its work, its concentration, and physical endurance. In this case, maybe it is a very good technique, and they will be glad to see it in the MSc, BTZ, or REMBET, or maybe in the headquarters, or in the services. But in a combat unit, this person will not serve. Those actions and work that we have to do, the issue of physical endurance will be critical there. The path to Magura. And this moment begins to work already today.
І цей момент починає працювати вже
Already from today. At the end of each day, no matter when it ends.
в кінці кожного дня.
At the front, at the positions, at the SPC, at the PPD, it does not matter.
На фронті, на позиціях, на СПшці, на ППД. Неважливо.
You informally gather your people. This is related to the commanders of the departments. You gather your people. It does not matter how many of them are with you. 2 people, 3 people, 1, it does not matter. Maybe even the whole department. You do not need to line up. Just get together, line up, and you approach each of them and ask him, what step do you take today to Magura? In this context, Magura is the peak. This is the path of development. This is the concept of our military unit. At first, this question, when I brought this tradition from my unit, which I once served, every evening I asked the guys what they learned today.
Якому я колись служив. Кожного вечора я запитував у хлопців, чого ви сьогодні навчились.
And they had to tell me at the end of the day any little thing, but what did they learn today?
Але чого вони сьогодні навчились?
It can be anything. They learned how to reinstall Windows. They learned the difference between Type-C and micro USB. It can be any little thing. But this is called for them to get up every day with the thought that at the end of the day they need to give birth to a replica of what they learned today.
Їм потрібно народити репліку, чого ж вони сьогодні навчились.
And you will need to convey this to your soldiers today, as if this is your team, as if this is your decision.
Як наче це ваша команда. Так, наче це ваше рішення.
They did not tell you, but it should be so. Because you said so, because you are their commanders. And it is important for you, for each of you, that it works. But the phrase that you learned today was referenced in the context of the philosophy of our military unit.
Переформулювалась в крок до Магури. В контексті філософії нашої військової частини.
Have you read the text in the closed Telegram channel about 200 and 300, about fallen and wounded? So it is categorically forbidden for our brigade to use these words.
Так от, нашій бригаді категорично заборонено використовувати ці слова.
As for coding the dead, you will be provided with information.
Буде доведена інформація.
This will be coding about everything, because radio conversations are not everyday communication. Information must be clearly provided in a certain algorithm of words, and 200, 300, 200, 300 are not needed here. Even if your officer hears you from him, you are carefully paying attention to him.
Ви від нього почули це, ви обережно робите йому зауваження.
You are talking to him carefully, Comrade Commander. It is forbidden for us to use these words. If any of the commanders ignores these things, violates the traditions, symbols and rituals of the brigade, you directly address me.
Ігнорує ці речі, порушує традиції, символи і ритуали бригади, ви напряму звертаєтесь до мене.
To symbolize, to define the horizontal of human relations in our military unit.
Горизонталь людських стосунків в нашій військовій частині
Our military units begin to address not sir, but comrade. Comrade commander, comrade sergeant, comrade lieutenant, colonel.
А друже. Друже командир, друже сержант, друже підполковник.
This tradition also came from the mouth. Friends also addressed Shukevich, his subordinates.
До Шухевича його підлеглі також зверталися.
I think it makes no sense to talk about the authority and the level of Shukevich's military talent.
Я думаю, розповідати немає сенсу.
And we will continue this tradition. This symbolizes the level of our cooperation and the vertical of subordination.
Нашої взаємодії. І вертикаль підпорядкування.
Because after a friend comes a rank or a position. Because there must always be a distance. There must always be a distance between you and your subordinates.
Між вами і вашими підлеглими завжди має бути дистанція.
There was a saying in Sparta that both the Tsar and the soldier sleep in the swamp. But the soldier has his own swamp, and the Tsar has his own swamp. They both sleep in the same conditions, but there must be a distance.
в однакових умовах, але має бути відстань.
I hope you understand the concept of this. Well, look, I finished my stage on this.
На цьому я свій етап закінчив.
Now, I will ask you to stand up. Since this event is a sergeant event, it will end with the reading of the code of the Sergeant of the Armed Forces of Ukraine.
Сержантський. Закінчиться він зачитуванням кодексу сержанта Збройних сил України.
Mr. Alexander. I am a sergeant, a defender of Ukraine, a leader and a mentor for the subordinates, an assistant and a support for the commander. Under any circumstances, I behave with honor, never give up and never retreat. I am always dedicated to the military affairs of the Ukrainian people and the fatherland. I am responsible for my actions, for the performance of the tasks assigned, and for the assigned personnel. As a professional of the highest category, I will never stop at what I have achieved. I am constantly improving. I am obliged to be an example in the fulfillment of the official duty and to write to the Sergeant Corps of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. I will always respect the comrades in arms and brothers in arms, take care of the subordinate personnel, group it into a single team, support mutual respect and mutual assistance in the collective.
Дбати про підпорядкований особовий склад, згуртовувати його в єдину команду, підтримувати взаємоповагу та взаємодопомогу в колективі.
I am a sergeant. I am personally responsible for the preparation of my subordinates, for their fighting spirit and readiness to perform combat tasks. I am always ready to lead them with a motto, follow me, do as I do. I swear never to betray the Sergeant Corps and to be faithful to the code of the Sergeant of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Honor, dedication, responsibility, professionalism. Glory to Ukraine.
Розійтись.